Jeannie, thank you. Jeannie is the mother of 5, foster mother of 1. Pretty amazing, huh? Pretty amazing. Thank you. Oh, yeah. She hangs out with a drummer, too. Terrence, we love you. We're glad you're here. Hey, before we get started, I just want to let Sean know, our sound guy, that our thoughts and prayers are with him today. Sean's mom got married in June, and her husband was killed tragically on Monday in an accident on his property. And we just want you to know our thoughts and prayers are with you and your mom. We know that this was a love story for her, and thanks for being here today. And I hope we can surround you with prayer. Mm-hmm. You know, it's things like that do make you pause and think, why am I here? You know, and why does my life go this way and someone else's life go another way? I think I've mentioned I've been to Haiti a couple of times before in the past, and then that tragic situation this past week where, you know, I'm sure over 1,000 people have lost their lives. And I wonder, you know, why? Those are the kind of questions that I ponder on a regular basis. And my logic tells me, well, it was a hurricane, and I don't believe God created a hurricane, and I don't believe any of those things. And then, you know, why is the government in such a way over there that I don't trust that those people will be cared for in a way that I believe they could be cared for? So with that, that has been on my mind and heart this week, and I've prayed a lot about those things that we don't understand. And oftentimes that's the time that we change those questions from why to how. How can I continue to seek to have an impact on my brothers and sisters in Haiti? I can always pray, and I can seek for a way where maybe I can make a difference in some way or another by finding organizations that are there. But please remember our brothers and sisters in Haiti, because this is a very difficult time for them. Life was hard before. I can't imagine now. So today we're thinking individually. Why are we here as individuals? Why is the garden here? And why do we have life, breath, and movement? The psalmist explored that a little bit in Psalm 139. We really don't know who the psalmists were, but this one is one of my very favorites, because it seems to me that maybe this psalmist was thinking about why they are here. They recognize first that for you, God created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. So it's as if the psalmist is recognizing, indeed, I am just a small, tiny being in this big picture. And God took the time to create me, and God continues to work through the psalmist, and pauses to give God thanks for that. Then in Jeremiah, the prophet, God speaks to Jeremiah. And I think that God does speak oftentimes through our thoughts, oftentimes when we're trying to ponder the bigger questions in life. And Jeremiah was reminded this by God, that God said, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with loving kindness. So for me, that's a reminder that you are the apple of God's eye. One of the reasons why we call God parent is because there's nothing like the love of a parent. Anybody who has had a child that has that experience, or you have had the love of a parent. So be mindful that you are the apple of God's eye, and God wants you to live with a divine purpose and meaning. This question, why are you here, is one that we have pondered really since the beginning of time. Gilgamesh, one of the very first writings that we have, the poem, the epic poem, is really just the search for meaning, the search to understand the universe, life and death and immortality. One of the very first writings that we have in all time. Of course, Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey, those are both explorations on why we are here. What is the meaning of all this? Thomas Hobbes, an English philosopher, put it this way. He said, well, man is nothing more than a physical object moving through space. That gives you a lot of purpose and meaning, doesn't it, huh? Stephen Hawking. Now, some people say, I can't believe you preach and use the name of Stephen Hawking. Remember, he's a man with no faith. Well, if you've ever looked at Stephen Hawking and the life and the challenges you've had, you might see why he is a man with no faith. I mean, he has had a tough life, this amazing intelligence. And so his life exists on a different plane than mine, but he certainly is an amazing man with lots of knowledge and understanding. He has taken this question of why we are here and spent his whole life trying to figure it out. He says this: in the entire 13.7 billion years of history, the universe exists in a model that is made up in our minds. So we can say we understand all this, but Stephen Hawking, the smartest guy around, says it's all made up in our minds. We're making it all up. So in the end, we build inside our own brains the meaning for life, for why we are here. Love, honor, right, wrong are all parts of the universe we create in our mind. And I love this. He says, the meaning of life is what you choose it to be. The meaning of life is what you choose it to be. As one who myself believes I'm part of this bigger, greater creation, I do believe that it is in part my mind and my very being that helps create the future that God seeks for God's world. Now, God blessed us with this thing called free will. God's not up there making hurricanes or giving our dear Matt Tully cancer or doing those things. I think that is happening in the process of life. I am a process theologian, and my Calvinist brothers and sisters can't stand it. But I am a process theologian. I believe that God is unveiling God's self in the process, and God only has the likes of you and me to bring goodness into reality. To bring goodness, grace, peace, hope, love, and compassion into reality. Now, it's easy to talk about those things, but to make those things reality is a much bigger picture. It is not only this way for the Christian faith. Many faith practices believe that we are all here to make a difference in the world. In fact, the Dalai Lama says this. He says, we are visitors on this planet. We are here for 100 years at the very most. How about that? He's a pretty optimistic guy, isn't he? During that period, we must try to do something good, something useful with our lives. If you can contribute to other people's happiness, you will find true meaning of life. The late Rabbi Harold Kushner put it this way. He said, we are here to change the world with small acts of thoughtfulness done daily rather than one great breakthrough. And then there is this other guy, his name was Jesus. He said, the reason we're here is this. He said, we are here to love the Lord our God with all our heart, all our soul, and with all our strength, and with all our mind. Oh, and by the way, we're here to love our neighbors as ourselves. 3 different faith backgrounds, but 3 very clear messages. Why are you here? You are here to make a difference in the world. Now, I can stand up here and say that to you and say, go forth and do that. But the truth about life is we do function sometimes in 2 different realities. The human reality, I like to call it, or the little picture, and the big picture reality, or the God possibility reality. If you get stuck in this world, you can see the impossibility quite often. But if you seek to live in God's greater reality, you can see that indeed with God all things are possible. Each morning when you get up, chances are you're living in that little reality of, I have to brush my teeth, I have to take my shower, I have to get on with my life for me. I am not really thinking about much other than me until I get to the coffee pot, and then it takes even a little while longer, right? So your day kind of starts in this self-centered existence to try to get yourself moving. Well, guess what? God is there at that time as well. And you could start your day rather than with that routine, and me also sometimes picking up my phone and seeing what happened in the world the night before. You could just pause and say, okay, God, I don't want to get stuck in little reality today. I want to live this day in the power of your powerful possibilities. It will make a difference, I guarantee you. My husband and I think I've mentioned before, in part because we're pastors, in part because it's really good for us, try to start our day every day with a routine of a devotion time, a time where you're led through on a website, and it's pretty cool. And I think it does make a difference in my reality. We have to think about those little teeny actions and how they're driven either by us or our recognition that we have a God who knows our inmost being, that wishes to use us to make a difference in the world. Another thing always to remember, if you are stuck in your limitations here today, perhaps you have something going on in your life where you are reminded not only how small you are, but how challenged you are and how difficult life can be and how overwhelming it can be. You're to remember the words that God spoke in Jeremiah. You are the apple of my eye. You are my child. I love you. This is God speaking. And I wish to work through you for a good, rich life, not just for yourself, but for the world. We are surrounded by people who have found a way to do this. They have found a way to do this. One of my favorites is Charles Harrison. Do you know Charles Harrison? You might know that face. Charles Harrison is a United Methodist minister right here in Indiana. He is on the board of the 10-Point Coalition. The 10-Point Coalition is a group of pastors who go out and they go and spend time in places where a violent act or death has happened in Indianapolis. They go to those areas and they pray for those situations. Charles gave the white church a challenge a few weeks ago because Charles notices that most of the time in those neighborhoods, it's primarily African-American ministers involved in that activity. He said, there's room for white folk here too to seek to bring a little peace and love into this world in some way or another. He has, for as long as I have known him, devoted his life to bringing peace to Indianapolis, and I believe that it's making a difference. U.S. Navy veteran Austin Shirley returned from duty in Iraq and just kind of said he lost purpose for his life. He lost the purpose and meaning for his life. And so he started to think about how he could find a new meaning in his life. And he realized that he was coming home with all of his limbs. So he decided to walk from Jacksonville, Florida to San Diego, California, and he just happened to bring his little dog along with him. And on that walk, he was trying to find his purpose for life, and guess what? In many ways, he did. On that walk, the realization that he could still walk made a difference. And he started a fund for the Wounded Warriors Project, and on that walk raised over $62,000 for his brothers and sisters who could not do the same thing. See, he found a purpose for his life in his ability to say, I'm not sure I have one. Anurag Gupta is a 30-year-old Indian immigrant who grew up in the caste system. In India, the caste system is really clear. We claim here in the United States that we do not have the same caste system. But he has found that, in fact, perhaps we do. Most of the wealth held by a small group of people. And he went to law school, got a law degree, and was going to go out there and make his living. But he knew that it was his job to be more in this country. And so what he has done was to try to create an organization called Be More. It's an online community, storytelling research. What they do is to try to help people who have nothing have their dreams become reality. He tries to help those people who might get caught in that bottom 3 to 5% of life in the United States that's not so good, and to help them create an energy in their lives that their dreams can become reality. Be More is the name of his organization. Kathy O'Grady, her whole life was spent trying to make people smile. From the time she was a little girl, her mother said, she just loved to make people smile. 15 years ago, her mother died of breast cancer, and she too kind of lost that purpose for being. She grieved for a little while, and then that was over. It was right around Thanksgiving time. She decided that she had to get back to whatever it was God had in store for her. So she went out and got $50 gift certificates and found families who were in need, and she went ahead and gave those certificates to those families. Then winter was right there in Boston, right around the corner. So then she started collecting blankets and scarves and leaving them on benches. And amazingly enough, there were people who had those kind of needs. She took very seriously her ability to not only bring a smile into the world, but to make a difference. Her whole family, siblings, brothers and sisters, husband, son, all became part of this project, and they are transforming Boston. Laura Billings never forgot that when she was growing up, she loved camping and being outdoors and celebrating the goodness of the wilderness and the life that you can have out there. As an adult, she took a tech job in New York City, and while she was there, she encountered kids who had no idea that there was this vast wilderness out there. So she decided that she wanted to make a difference. Part of the reason why she wanted to make a difference was every day, she said, she spent in fear in this tech world where it's either live and find out how to make things go new and to work. And she was living in such fear, she knew she had to find a way to love. So she started this organization where they were going to bring kids together so those kids could make their way to wilderness places. Not only did she start this organization, but it was recognized by other organizations. And now she no longer lives in the fear work tech world. She lives life in a program called Discover Outdoors. And she takes inner city kids to amazing places like that. That is her job, making a difference in the world. Why? She was willing to face her fear. She was willing to consider why God had given her life, breath, and movement, and she was willing to think about somebody else who might be in need. Friends, these are all different ways how people have found out why they are here. Some are massive, big ways. Others are little, tiny ways. I can tell you, these people have found joy and meaning in life. It's our job to do the same. It is our job to figure out why we're here. And it has very little to do with your bank account. It has very little to do with you. It's how you can make a difference in the world for someone else. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's where you will find meaning in life. That's where God will continue to work through the world in the process of the world unfolding. God's only got you and me and incredible, powerful possibilities. Why are you here? I can't wait and see what God has in store. Amen.